Good evening, everypony, and welcome to Commentary's Magic Stream on today's Sunday, March 14th, 2021. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
Big Cheese.
Cat and
Ivory Starlight.
Happy Plague Anniversary.
no, not yet.
Two
But
more days.
we'll talk about that at the end of the stream. No, today is Pi Day.
That's a much happier holiday to celebrate. Let's celebrate that instead. Who has had pie today?
I was literally
Does pizza count?
on a technicality. I guess I'll allow it.
Does curry count?
No.
I
You
had
can
pie for
claim-
dinner. I had chicken pot pie and then some pie for dessert.
Actually doing Pi Day.
Yep.
Now, tell me about the curry here. Did you have a naan and spread it out like a pizza? I'll count that as a pie on technicality.
I have had curry pizza before. It's actually very tasty.
It is quite tasty. There's a place up here that does Indian Italian fusion pizzas. It's really good.
I think you mentioned that to me, yeah.
Anyway,
And as Beagle asks in chat, does hugging Pinkie Pie count? Yes, that always counts.
no, it doesn't count because you should be doing that every free moment. Anyway, what were we talking about today?
Something about decks or tournaments, or I don't know.
Let's keep up our discourse about different flavors of pie. Anyway, limestone's best. Fight me.
Marble. I love
Yeah,
the
marble.
pie.
All right.
I'm not
okay,
even
let's-
justifying that with a response.
You're not
Wow.
even justifying marble with a response?
Wow, Ivory's
Just-
playing the serious man here. Okay.
I mean, apparently neither did Big Mac though. So you know.
I mean,
Whoa, shots fired.
all these marble stands is like, come on.
but
All right.
marble- Anyway.
See, Bugle understands how this works. Marble is last.
What? Doesn't make sense.
Okay. So let's see. We had an OnlineCon 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Was it 2 weeks ago or was it last weekend?
No,
It was 2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks. You're right. I've lost track of all time.
Yeah, we deferred that a week, and that's very fortunate because I did not. My weekend last weekend just ceased to exist because of work. So, good timing. Good timing.
It's like we knew or something. And there were some decks that were played at this online con.
There were.
There
All
was some limited and there was some constructed.
Yeah, the limited was shenanigans. I mean, limited is always shenanigans. The sealed is always interesting. I think it's less fun than draft personally, just because you have a little bit more agency during draft. But sealed is always like, all right, I got 96 cards. Gonna make a deck.
That is an accurate description of how sealed works. Yes,
Gonna make
you have described the fundamental rules for sealed.
some kind of deck, any kind of deck.
Sealed does have a tendency to show the high rolls a bit more than draft does.
Right. But we also had, let's see, I believe this was core this time,
Correct.
and we had 8 people. So let's take a look at the top 4, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Stream controller. Show us a deck.
Hey, that's a deck.
Someone cast Pegasus.
A wild Pegasus appeared.
All right. Yeah, so let's see. This is Sketch Beam with, well, this is obviously a Nurturing Nature blue list. There's some Pegasi in here.
There are, in fact, a tremendous number of Pegasi in here.
There's a few Pegasi in here. What are
There
we?
are 8 non-Pegasi. No, 10. No, 8, I think. Yeah,
Alright.
8.
So we got Bunyips, Yona, Meadowbrook,
Oh,
Brian.
I forgot about the Yonas. Whatever, she
11.
counts.
And then there's some Father of Monsters down in the corner, though. That's kind of a interesting trick.
This deck is a great indicator of exactly what the pilot, who was Sketchbeam in this case, has been dealing with in his frequent games against Sonnet.
Yeah, the Journal of Friendship is a real interesting call.
Yep. And the Grogar Father of Monsters to deal with the mimics that were destined to come up if anyone was playing Control. Spoilers, nobody played Control. Well, no one in top 4.
Well, but he's also been, I think, conditioned against Sonnet. It's just like, mimics, the mimics, mimics. They stare at me.
It's kind of true. The only dilemma in here being Sanctuary construction, somebody doesn't like troublemakers.
I mean, Pegasi doesn't like troublemakers in general.
Yeah, but he has Meadowbrook. He doesn't care.
He's fine with it.
Well, yeah, but why have one when you can have, like, 4?
I mean, sure.
Like, you've got to admit here that there's some serious troublemaker punching power in this thing. So if you're playing troublemaker-based Control against this, you're going to have a bad time.
Why are the Journal of Friendships here?
Because he's been conditioned against Sonnet, who has been taking all of his friends forever.
Not the set, but like taking
yes.
his friends and keeping them.
That sounds like a fun deck.
Mm-hmm.
Not for him, it's not.
Yes, I'm aware. All right, let's see. So I don't think there's anything else that's too interesting in here.
I mean, go ahead.
I forget what her name is, and I can't read the tiny little thing.
Whose name?
Come here. The Fluttershy. Fashion Fluttershy.
Acceptable business attire?
Yes, there. Acceptable business attire, I think, is an interesting one here, but that, I think, speaks to... Pegasus, it really doesn't like it when you start taking away its cool things, like its chillaxes and its Philly racers. Like, it kind of wants you to not mess with those.
True. I am a big fan of the Sanctuary Scuffles in here, so that when your opponent has laid out their whole board of giant friends, you can just bounce them all and laugh. Or if you're both playing aggro shenanigans, you can just be like, haha, my friends are significantly more efficient than yours, and bounce all your stuff back to your hand.
Right. In some cases, some of the things, it's like, you know what, I'm fine putting that back in my hand. Sure, go for it. Give me another few shots off of Plush Dash and Royal Pony. Why not?
Oh yeah, this is good times. I mean, obviously not both of those with the same Sanctuary, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah, like, you're fine with that.
But you could do Plushy Dash and Meadowbrook.
Which, again, you probably won't hear anyone complain about getting back.
Your opponent might.
Well, sure.
But
problem deck-wise, this is interesting because generally we see Nurturing Nature decks try to keep the confront requirements as low as possible, but he's opting for higher bonus, higher confront problems here, so it does lean a little more on that side, more like a traditional Pegasi list. Like one using Stunning Wonder. So it's a neat kind of merging of those two styles, but the core of Pegasi, which is basically all 3 of those blue cards that you see there, the Chillaxes and the Philly Racers and the Unsats, there you go. Oh, and can't forget the Meadowbrooks.
She's not even a Pegasus.
I like how the card is zoomed in on her. She looks pretty wide on that card.
I'll link the meme later, I guess.
Okay.
Let's just say that sometimes Grandpa's comes up with some dumb ideas, and then I'm like,
fine.
Well, this is my life now, I guess.
I have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. Might as well.
Might as well.
I am compelled to create.
Anemoy points out that the 3-point yellow problem isn't there.
Is not running Swaying the Sea Ponies. Correct.
Is also not running Surprise Takeoff. So I think that he really values protection of his friends. This is a man who has been twisted by Pink White. I can tell you that right now, just by looking at these card inclusions.
Yeah.
This poor man has suffered greatly.
Well, it worked out in his favor. He took first.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. Yeah. I don't think there's a whole lot else in here that really strikes me as interesting. That needs like poked at here.
No,
I am a little surprised at the final question, but I suppose that's a reasonable gambit that you can get up to 4 blue later game.
I mean, when Surprise Takeoff came out, every blue deck was just like, oh, it's 2 bonus points. Finally, I can run this. And then Final Question is basically 5 points value off of it because you can get the 2 for confronting and the 2 for winning the face-off too. And
Right.
yeah, you've got enough blue here to make it work.
Yeah, it should be okay. There is 9 entry, so that seems fine.
Just move up 2 Philly Racers, profit.
Gross.
But that you can't exhaust them.
Sure you can. You move up 2 Philly Racers, then you confront, then you exhaust, and you drop a plushie dash, and then you move a bunch of stuff. It's great.
Spicy.
All right, next list.
Want some blue?
Or do you like blue? What is this? What are all these red cards here?
It's an aggro deck because it's red.
Wrong. Yeah, this is red deck wins.
It's a burn deck.
Kind of.
Pirate farming.
This is where we have come to in farms so far with the main options that are available in core is you look at a main that pays 2 to flip and score you some points and you're like, yep, that's the best farming option.
I bet I can do something with that. But I wanna stop for a moment here. Let's take a look at Pony of Shadows and the friends that are in this list. Tell me that you're not going to be just overjoyed to get any one of those 3.
I mean, this is similar to Pancake's list, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, this is the same. He did the same thing with his previous core list, where his only friend was Captain Jack.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no matter what, I'm getting a friend I'm okay with.
Yeah. And I mean, here you've got, oh yeah, you get this lovely little Corsair captain in the pirate ship. It's just like, so now I get to move things for free. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that Solano friend is the first time we've seen that included, but the fact that he gives your other pirates competitive too, and your plushie dash is also a pirate, and your main is also a pirate, is pretty spicy.
And it itself is also a pirate, and if you get 2 of these suckers on the field,
yeah, it gets kind of dumb. Also,
competitive two.
Yeah.
Yeah, you end up 2 of them at the same place as 16 power. There's not a whole lot that's going to do anything about that.
Can you flip a 9? I win before the flip.
Large oof.
Yep, the pirate ships in here are obviously a key inclusion for any farm deck in core right now. Grogar's Lair is a super disruptive card as well. Good to see that seeing some play.
Oh yeah, no, Pegasi does not like seeing that.
Most aggro decks don't like seeing that.
Most decks don't like seeing that.
Very true. Good amount of Frighten in here, Sepakli Attack, Stop Fighting, and Staff of Sikanos. Only a single Crown of the Sibling Supreme, but hey, you've got Daybreaker and a bunch of epics.
Yeah, that Crown of the Sibling Supreme's kind of a hit or miss card. Like, there are times when you're going to get that and you're just going to be like, oh, it's so good. And a lot of the rest of the time it's just going to be like, eh. And it only flips for F3. It's kind of like,
32 cards that died in Meadowbrook.
But there's only one in the deck, probably for that reason. If you get it, cool. If not, it's no big deal. You'll get plenty of points to score here.
Right. Yeah. I feel like if you're not feeling it right now, just sideboard it out. But yeah.
As Crow points out in chat, there are a lot of cards that are not happy to see Meadowbrook here.
No.
In like over half the deck.
It's like a full 2/3 of the deck at least, right? If
See,
not,
it's true. The nice thing here, though, is if you effectively have 6 Pony of Shadows because you can find one with Grogar. So if you can beat a Pony of Shadows early to get a useful body in play, you can start confronting every problem in your deck. And you've also got the Tempest Shadows, easy as pie, as a way of boosting your point acceleration even more. So even if your farming plan does get disrupted, there's just so much potential for point gain.
Yeah, like this doesn't emphasize the aggro game, but this can play the aggro game if it has to.
Provided your opponent isn't running pink. If your opponent's running pink, you're going to have a bad time.
Well, if your opponent's running pink, you're just generally going to have a bad time. Like, dies to remove was not a good argument.
It's true. But you'll have a better time farming if your opponent's playing pink. So, unless they're playing pink-yellow, and then no one has a good time.
Just flip Tempest Shadow every time. Win that way.
I want to talk about shells.
All right. Anything else to mention here? I would like to have 3 Captain Selenos in play and then activate Pirate Ship for -2 AT.
Yeah, because that's exactly how that works.
Yep.
You gain 2 AT and you activate Pirate Ship.
Seems like shenanigans to me. Next list.
Next list.
Not aggro.
Is it? Is it not aggro? Hey, look
No.
at that.
No, of course it's not aggro. You know how I know it's not aggro?
Featherbangs is there?
No, because Bugle's playing it.
I mean,
there's
even if Bugle wasn't playing it, you would know it's not aggro because Featherbangs and Living to Laugh in the same deck never equal aggro.
Well, correct. I enjoy just the hilariously wide variety of cards that just don't see a ton of play.
Yeah, there's a lot. Now, I would like to point out one very special thing with this deck. Okay? You have Rockhoof, who's going to get gigantic. You have Haven Bay, that often gets pretty big, moving it with Pirate Ship. You have Berry Punch, who has a ton of cards, who lets you keep a ton of cards in hand and therefore has huge power. You have a single character here that has yellow. Every single one of your friends is kept at a problem with treading water. Every single one.
That's terrible.
Great.
Oh my god.
Go ahead, DFO.
That is dumb. Yeah?
Yes, including all of the tokens that Featherbangs makes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Shenanigans.
It's pretty shenanigans. So
right. And then we've got some golden parachute here, just in case you thought you were going to remove any of this.
Ain't happening. We're gonna go ahead and pitch those.
Let's see. We've got the Somnambula's blindfold. Yes, delicious.
Note that you would probably not include both of those in the same deck post sideboarding.
No, you wouldn't, but that's fine because sometimes if you can drop, well, the blindfold's a little bit more of a niche card in this deck. If you're pink primary, it's hilarious to drop one of those turn 1 and just be like, so.
No Pinky Sense for you. Or is it Pinky Sense or is it the other card that lets you look at the top card?
Oh,
it's the other card.
No Meticulous.
Yeah, no Meticulous.
Yeah, purple does not like that.
What it does do is laugh at opposing Living to Laugh running Golden Parachute and being like, that's a nice card you have there in your discard pile. It would be a shame if it could never leave and do its thing.
Right. But at the same time, if you really had to here, you can sit there and start playing dumb games with Big Eater and your own Somnambulous Blindfold and just be like, nope. Okay, I'm ready to go. Bye.
Yeah, that's true.
What, just play it so that you can eat it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, you can.
Sure.
That's a May. You can find creative ways to do dumb stuff here.
You've got Desert Road to mess with opposing ETB effects, Heat Wave to shut off key cards, Belly Flop, and Funny Business as far as removal goes.
Yeah, no, Bugle says this is mid-range.
It is.
Yeah, kind of is.
It's a mid-range deck that just also happens to go, hey, I'm in the colors of Featherbanks plus Living to Laugh. Guess I'll combo. The early Heat Wave 3 times. Such disrespect.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the problem deck. The problem deck is definitely a mid-range deck. Couple 2 bonus problems, most of the confront requirements sitting around 5 or 6. Yeah, that looks about right.
Yeah, a little slower, yeah. Now, Bugle and Pancake were, I think, sorely disappointed that they did not record that game. But, yeah.
There is so much card draw in this deck. It doesn't look like it, but between the Haven Bays and the Berry Punches and your Pirate Ships and Rock Hoop Shovels, and then, of course, Featherbanks, you just draw forever.
Shenanigans. And the problem? Oh, yep.
And then, lest you forget, you solve your Mirror Pool miscount, and now your hand limit is 10.
You have cards that like that.
You do have cards that like that.
Yeah.
Next
Take
list?
Top 4.
Top.
Where is it?
Waiting.
Wait for it.
Waiting. Mr. Stream Coordinator.
Jeez.
Yes.
Push the button.
There we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Cheese.exe has frozen.
It stopped responding. Think.
Hey, look. More of those winged ones.
Got some Pegasus here. All right, so this is a stunning confidence deck.
Why do you do this?
Because it annoys you.
I know.
So there's
very
a few
similar to the
Pegasuses
first
here.
one.
Well, it is.
But
yes
not.
and no. Yeah. Go ahead, R.
It's...
Wait, this deck has no bunyups.
XD.
No, and I think you could maybe make a claim that, well, it's maybe not fast enough. Like, they're nice, but they're not Pegasus.
Yeah, Stunning Wonder often does not include bunyip.
All right, so it's got a bunch of dilemmas. Fewer than I maybe expect, but I think that's kind of a natural response to no longer having growing confidence.
Yeah, it's tricky it's tricky for people to find the exact sweet spot. It used to be, run all of them.
How many dilemmas? Yes.
Right.
As many as you can fit.
But there are some interesting inclusions here, going with the Bryans and the Kind as Can Be's, maybe in favor of more dilemmas, and the Spooky Runes as well.
Right. I mean, but there's no such thing as, too much resource removal here.
3, 6, 8. Yeah, that's a pretty good amount. No Plushy Dashes this time around, but we do see some Scootaloo. Scootaloo with the Harmony Pegasus was a hotly debated inclusion in the previous meta's version of Pegasi Aggro.
Yeah.
We do see Washout's Performance, which is still a stupid card.
Yeah.
It's 2 bits and a problem on a stick. Feels nice.
Let's see here, because I think the I think the costs in here are. I'm actually a little surprised to not see Stuck Together in here.
Yeah, Stuck Together is one of those problems that just works incredibly well with Stunning Wonder, as you can set yourself to 3 while your opponent goes to 2.
Right, and all the average cost of cards in here is well set to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Between the discounts you can get off of CC and Flitter and some of the other stuff going on, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think we discussed this at one point, but the 2 cards that are, I think, most interesting here are the Pirate Dashes and the Spooky Ruins. Diamond Song, of course, being a well-known lover of Spooky Ruins shenanigans.
Yeah, Spooky Ruins is going to do some work against farm, assuming you can't get rid of their troublemakers and you're not running Sanctuary Construction in this list. And the Pony Pirate, like, it is nice to have some more forms of disruption. Although generally you would see Pony Pirate alongside a Plushie Dash, so you could maybe move it at immediate speed if you needed to. Paying 2 to move a Pony Pirate never feels good.
Right, and I feel like there was something in this list that had a much more hilarious way to take advantage of that, but I forget what it was.
Not in here from what I'm seeing. I mean, you've got some of the problems, but that's a whole other thing as well.
Yeah, the problem deck is very different from what we saw on the last list.
I mean, final question and bring out your best definitely makes sense.
Distracted lead actress, sure, that's a fine option as well.
That's just a good yellow problem.
Sure.
Yeah, because everyone misreads it or forgets how it works. That's the only reason people run it.
I mean, it started being, recognized now, and you just hear that audible sigh from your opponent's side of the table when it comes up.
Right, but see, that's why you run it.
The too many Fluttershies and In the Temple of Chico Monstock are unique. They don't have the trait unique, they are unique decisions. Too many Fluttershies, sure, it's movement, but if you're going to run a confront or a problem with the confront requirement that high, why not just run Swaying the Sea Ponies and get yourself a 3 bonus?
Well, remember, although this is a Stunning Wonder list, you don't really, I think, want to rely on winning that.
There's a lot of power. Again, no bulk anthem though, so only 6 anthems, much like the previous list that we see. By anthems, we're referring to power boosting effects for particular types of cards.
The CC and Flitter and the Chillaxes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying it's maybe a bit risky, but seemed to work.
Diamond, I'm sorry the card got misprinted, but in the Temple of Chico Monstock is just
bad.
You just don't run that card, please.
It's really annoying it got misprinted.
It is. Yes. It would be fine.
If it was a 2 blue plus 3 wild like it should have been.
I think it was 2 wild, actually.
Well, it's even better. But yeah, unfortunately it got misprinted with that 5, and it's just like, oof.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Yep. Okay, so that's our top 4.
Notably absent is any kind of like real hardcore control deck, which is interesting.
Control has always been an archetype that is favored by a select few individuals, and if those few individuals are not participating or have something else that they want to run instead, then you're not going to see it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, and Bugle's sitting here being like, it's a mid-range deck.
You don't think that these other decks just aren't favored right now?
I mean, that's also a possibility, because it's just, you're going to have a pretty hard time as a control deck if you got all these blue-yellow Pegasus running around. Like, they don't like going slow.
Can't hold me back, man.
Pegasus.
I was just going there.
No.
Can't spell Pegasus without sus.
Ow.
Pegasus was not the imposter.
No, Meadowbrook is the imposter, but everyone knows it, and they're just fine letting her run around with them anyway.
So, what can we take away from this and from the last few months in general? That's kind of the place we're at now. Dude.
Well, for starters, Pegasi aggro is still very, very good. It's done very well in the events it's shown up in, even with Stunning Wonder.
Yeah, and we even saw the Nurturing Nature variant of that too.
Right. There's the Pegasuses are going to go fast, and they've been going fast, and they're continuing to go fast even after losing both Day Shift and the full power of Growing Confidence.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of that comes down to what their opposition is as well, right? So, if you are playing aggro in current core right now, it is hard to point to a deck that is going to be able to outrace Pegasi without sacrificing something along the way. Pegasi is a little more of a glass cannon aggro, but you have some disruption in the form of your Kind Ponies and your Unsatisfactory Works, which is still just an excellent card.
Like, you're running Fluttershy. If you didn't windmill slam those in there, I have questions.
Not every time. But yes.
The Kind Ponies maybe, but the Unsatisfactory Works, no. You're windmill slamming those things.
Right. And so that can give you enough disruption to slow the opponent down just enough. But the sheer amount of power that you can generate for a very reduced amount of action tokens is what makes that deck so strong.
All right, it's doing what aggro wants to do. It wants to move as much and produce as much power as possible for as little as possible. Right. As quickly as possible.
Between CC Inflitter, Chillax, and Bulk Biceps, you've got 3 different ways to potentially boost the power of your Pegasi, and that's not even counting problems like Bring Out Your Best. And when you can make a bunch of Pegasi tokens through cards like Crash Cloud or Rocket Scooter, just be grateful. Just be grateful Spitfire Wing Leader isn't in core right now.
Everyone loves Rocket Scooter shenanigans.
I do love Rocket Scooter shenanigans.
I don't know. Scootaloo looks a little, less than pleased about her immediate future.
Yeah, she's fine.
On the card? Are we talking about the main?
Yeah, on the card. She just has a case of the zoomies. It's fine. And when you look at what other aggro decks would be doing in the meta, like Mono Blue, okay, sure, you can probably get more conga lining movement going, but you're not going to have the same level of efficiency when it comes to busting resources and troublemakers.
Yeah, like
because you don't have Meadowbrook.
Yeah, Blue just doesn't have the same kind of firepower in that arena. And your disruption is arguably less good.
I mean, not having Unsat is pretty rough. Unsat's really, really strong.
Like, yes, Blue has quite a bit of immediate speed frighten. And yes, that is better than bounce in quite a large number of cases. All those things that say when this card enters play. And even a handful of ways to upgrade that into actual hard removal. But it's yeah.
Then you look at other colors that have historically tried to play aggro, like pink sometimes tries to aggro, but just plain can't match that speed and 100% gives up resource removal, and that's just really hard to justify right now. Yellow with different secondary colors. Again, it's a race right
It
now.
just doesn't go fast enough.
And when you start looking at non-traditional aggro colors like orange or like purple, to try to play the aggro game, at that point you're not really going aggro, you're more going mid-range or tempo. And you know you're giving up speed, so you better have enough utility to offset that, or enough disruption to offset that, and I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Grogar showed that he can do very well with pink, but that's also because it just has a combo finish as well.
If you say, I think that's more just because pink is sitting there just being like, well, since you're already here.
Right. Like, if you're losing the game on the racing aspect, you're just like, fine, I'm just going to draw through my deck and just end the game immediately. And Featherbangs is so efficient at doing that. And then on the control side of things, we were talking about this earlier, and even though we didn't see a lot of control in this or some more recent tournaments, a big takeaway from it is that if you're going to play control right now, there's still really about one effective control deck. And that is, unfortunately, the same kind of Tempest pink-white that we've seen for several metas now.
Yep.
Like, spell for that, unfortunately, just doesn't lend itself to the same kind of disruption that Tempest does, because you can't do the grubber shenanigans. And Chrissy is a disruptive main, and Grogar can be disruptive along with Work Hard, Play Hard as well, but they're just lagging behind a bit right now. And then you've got all the various options for farming mains that are just having a bad time. Thorax can farm, but it takes too long and can be tricky to set up.
Right,
And
he's very reliant on having the little swarm of tiny things everywhere.
And Professor Twilight or Professor Sparkle can farm, and actually got quite a few cards to help her farm, but she has very limited interaction, and so that can be rough.
The equestrian agriculture university seems to have lost its accreditation.
For now.
What?
Ag studies. And then Flight Instructor, like Wonderbolt is a main that can, in theory, farm, but the confront to flip is still real rough. That's part of the reason for Seleno, that and the fact that it's another form of point acceleration. And again, you've got AJ Work Hard, Play Hard. It's fine, but your farm decks are often going to rely on a lot of resources, and Desert Road is expensive. So if you don't get a Desert Road down, that Meadowbrook is just going to wipe you out. And even if they don't, if you're playing against a Stunning Wonder list that's running a more traditional number of dilemmas, like 7, 8, or 9, your opponent's going to sit there and look at your troublemakers and be like, that's cute.
It's a darn shame I've got, like...
Those troublemakers better be changeling mimics.
Right? That's one of the few powerhouses that Control has that is just as disruptive now as it was back in the day.
Well, that's because that card's busted.
It is busted. It has defined what Control has been able to do for a long time, and it creates situations that are just also very unfun for people. Changeling Mimics did everything wrong, Bugle. There's no way even you can claim otherwise.
One bonus.
Now. Even Rainbow Shine is sitting there going now.
Now, the good news is even though we just talked about a bunch of decks that may not necessarily be able to hold up to the tier 1 or like the best deck in each archetype right now between aggro, combo, and control.
How many decks did we just talk about? Like 20 something effectively?
Yeah, a lot.
And we didn't even get into all the dumb stuff that I can do with Silverstream, or maybe a Celis needs to show up again. She's also a traitor.
And then you've got the Skystar that's still out there as a perfectly fine
I haven't
option.
seen
Talk about
Celis
shells.
played since playtesting.
I know Celis got a lot of good support in this last set as well. And then you've got all the spell for that variants that are running, a secondary color and doing Cursed's restricted section Legacy League shenanigans. Like, there are a ton of decks out there right now that are a lot of fun to play and are just unfortunately below the cusp of being tier 1. So where does that leave us?
I'm waiting to see if that was a rhetorical question or a leading question.
Sure.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah. So
I mean,
well,
yeah.
So let's talk about that briefly here, and we'll talk about it more in the fireside chat afterwards, which we probably should have mentioned at the beginning. Do we want to mention that now?
Yeah, it seems like
You
a
just did
reasonable
mention
time
it.
to you did the thing.
I did do the thing. So after this stream is done, we're going to have a fireside chat discussion in one of the Discord voice channels. So we hope you will all come and join us.
We'll put a link at the end of the stream.
Yeah. So there's really two possible solutions to this, right? The first one is you take a look at where the meta is right now and you say, okay, I think I get it. I think I understand what's going on. And here are the cards that are the worst offenders, and here are the cards that need a little more support. And you just print more support for the things that need to be brought up in the subsequent set.
And maybe print a little punishment for the things that don't.
Right.
Or, in some cases, just, not helping those archetypes is enough to do it.
Right, just dial back the power a little bit.
And we've actually seen this a handful of times. Defenders gave yellow just so much good stuff.
And then Sequestria came out, and it also gave it a bunch of good stuff.
And then Friends Forever was just like, not so much.
It gave it Yona and Meadowbrook. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. But they're sitting there.
But then Leaders and Legends came out, and with the exception of the main, it was pretty restricted.
Right. And there is basically, if you take a step back there's a string of cards through those sets that can be seen as just helping aggro out. Because back then, aggro was not having a good time. And so you can do that sort of correction to try to, encourage meta diversity.
Sure. And like Ara said, we've done stuff like that before. It does require going into the design phase of a set with that particular goal in mind to know that you are trying to pump up colors that need more assistance or archetypes or strategies that do, while keeping others more in check. And that's fine, but you don't want to necessarily do that every single set, or you're just being reactive instead of exploring new design space, and then it's also an indicator that something's clearly going wrong because you keep having to dramatically adjust a meta every time a new set comes out, like artificially adjust it.
Right, and I feel like there's some video game company that's really bad about this with respect to their balance, and it's just like, all right, shake it up. New patch, shake it up. Doesn't World of Warcraft kind of do that? Because
No, they've been pretty restrained with their patches for a while. It used to be much worse.
Yeah, because I remember there were a couple of times when it was just like, what's the flavor of this patch?
I mean, Diablo and Path of Exile kind of do that a bit.
Yeah.
So,
that's one option.
Okay.
You mentioned another one?
So the other option is a tool that, you know, teams in charge of organized play have to wield very carefully. And that is a ban hammer.
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Normally, bans are just used to address cards that have made themselves problematic.
Sure.
But sometimes, and we have done a small handful of these, bans are used to try to address meta diversity issues. I think we can say that AJ was a little bit of both.
Yeah, AJ was both. I would say that DJ is a good example of a meta diversity ban.
Right. Not necessarily because, although, given that
I mean, she
a-
was the meta.
a powerful card is going to try, or is effectively going to end up with a non-diverse meta, because it's like, well, you kind of have to run that because it's just the best one. And so it can kind of be applied in a similar way, but you can maybe apply it more broadly.
How do
And
you
I
mean?
think that's kind of what the day shift ban ended up being. Like, I don't think day shift was really responsible for on her own, wasn't responsible for a power level thing. She was certainly powerful, but also it was one of those things where you look at a yellow deck. What's the yellow deck running?
And if your first three cards are always Daybreaker or Day Shift, sorry, then
Right, it's always going to be day shift, and it doesn't matter what the yellow deck is doing. There's 3 day shifts.
right. It also led to issues where mains that synergize better with Day Shift were extremely favored, like the
Growing confidence.
I don't know what you're talking about. Or even just like Thorax being able to just sit there and be like, I have 9 power.
And I met the problem all the time.
Hey, didn't we run into this with AJ in the past?
Seems problematic. Oh yeah, that would have been fun. Yeah. Let's get an orange yellow list with AJ and day shift.
Gross. That sounds terrible.
It does actually sound gross.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that.
So yeah, the other option is to take a look at the current state of the meta, and make some judicious choices in regards to what cards should remain legal to play. Even if those cards may not necessarily be, an issue in and of themselves, if the impact they have on the meta overall over a continued period of time leads to a lack of diversity, then that's an issue. And again, we're talking about a lack of diversity at the most competitive level. There are dozens of strategies that people can try right now, but one thing that we have to do looking at organized play is to bear in mind that there are people in this community that still like to play at the most competitive level. And that means that the more options that exist, the more viability as far as different deck lists go, the healthier that meta can be overall. When there's only 1 or 2 decks that you can play, or even worse, only 1 deck per archetype that you can play.
You mean kind of like how there's like 1 good aggro deck right now?
Right, exactly. Then going into a tournament season or going into a season with more cons, what I would call a con season in any other year besides this one and the last.
Okay. I was about to say last year is still holding on to its beer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'd like a con or 2 or 12.
I agree.
But you can't has.
Well,
not yet.
Not yet. Soon. Hopefully. We'll see. Anyway, that'll be kind of the topic or the springboard of our discussion in Discord later tonight.
Right. So I think we have one other thing to play with here before we sign off and hop into Discord.
Oh, what you got?
Let's see. So speaking of cons, it is in fact nearing the Plagiversary, and it's getting very close to actually the 1-year anniversary of moving everything online. And so this hasn't been posted just yet. Where'd it go? But OnlineCon 10.0 in memory of a real con.
In memory of a real con. Oh, and Coco, as Anmoy points out.
Yeah. Coco is... Where is that? I think it's at 3 signups currently. It honestly is not moving very quickly. So we may have to continue holding fire on that one. We'll see where it goes, though.
Yep.
Here,
Don't forget, Coco is still out there. We should probably post a reminder announcement. We'll do our best to do that.
Here you go. Sneak peek at the OnlineCon announcement.
Oh, what is this shenanigan? There's a special little card there.
Well, so this will be familiar to some of the people who have been participating in Hithrock's draft and sealed leagues in the well, not leagues, but draft and sealed events in the past. We're going to do something a little bit different this time. We're doing draft and harmony. The draft will be Equestrian Odysseys and High Magic. BabsCon has traditionally been more of a harmony, older set focused con.
I don't think this document is properly shared.
No, it's probably not.
Is it in the right folder?
There, I have corrected the thing. Yeah. There we go. Anyway, so people who've been playing Hithrock's weekly draft sessions may recognize this main. This is an experiment. For a while, we've been looking at the draft situation and going, well, no one ever picks mains. Unless it's like Bluna.
I mean, I wonder why. The good part of that is because you can just proxy all the mains.
Right. And so if you couldn't proxy all the mains, you'd maybe, pay a little bit more attention to, what mains came around. And maybe you're not sure if you're going to use the ambassador of, whatever.
It's more than just what mains are desirable in draft. It's also that, okay, if the same mains are available for proxy, the best ones are often, a standout choice. And so what should be more diverse by people having more choice is actually less diverse because you just gave them the wrong choices. So Starlight's here to solve that.
Here we're all equal. And so Cult Leader Starlight is here to say, exceptionalism is a lie, unless you remember to draft the correct main.
But on it, there's some colors where this is better than the main options you have.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's unfortunately true. Like, if you were to go into, for example, a just Defenders draft and didn't allow any of the other stuff from that block, and you wanted to run pink, you're
gonna have a bad time.
Gonna have a bad time.
Or white. And
yeah.
even kind of orange.
So yeah, maybe
and
that's
purple.
That's
just hating on all the mains, aren't you?
No,
basically.
Nurturing Nature and Wonderbolt were the correct options.
They're perfectly fine if you're running blue or yellow.
Right.
Blue, yellow.
The problem was the pink was the best color in Defenders, so.
Well, pink had the best cards. The main was just
Trash. Trash.
No, she was
bad.
perfectly fine.
Leo's not here to make that argument. Okay.
X. I'm gonna X that.
Okay.
X to doubt.
Anyway, that'll be a fun new experience for draft. And then also Harmony, because BabsCon has always been Harmony. So break out your degeneracy. With that being said, though, I think that will wrap up our stream discussion on this topic for today. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Remember, we're hopping back into Discord for a little bit of fireside chat.
Correct. We would, of course, like to give a big shout out to all our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. If you aren't currently a patron and you enjoy what we do, please consider donating. Doing so does enable us to continue making content like this and lets you earn some great perks as a bonus. If you have comments or questions you'd like to send our way, feel free to reach out to us through Facebook, Twitter, or email. And if you're a patron, you can also chat live with us on Slack at any day, anytime.
My sleep schedule has basically been inverted.
I blame white Putin memes.
No, I blame daylight savings time.
Well, sure. Then we can all sit there and suffer with you.
But we have to sit and suffer at different times.
True.
Seriously, why does that change at different times? It's kind of insane.
Finally, if you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel, linked just below the stream. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
Big Cheese.
Arcat and
Ivory Starlight, who just posted a link to Discord for those of you who needed an invite.
Thank you, Ivory.
oh, I forgot to paste the.
I think you also skipped the Patreon thing.
I did, because I'm supposed to do that. I mean, the the Discord link's actually in there.
There we go. There's the Patreon thing. All right. We'll see you all in a few minutes on Discord.
Paste. There we go. Bye.
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 Bye.